I was going to sort of focus on Facebook and Google. They're having an increasing impact on the mobile market, particularly mobile operators. We all tend to sort of focus on Google, but actually I think Facebook is a more interesting player to watch. I'll start off with Google because you kind of need to. It's the one that sort of everybody's a little bit frightened of. It used to be Microsoft that was the evil empire, but clearly it's now Google. And you can sort of understand why. It's got incredible assets. We know that it's a leader in online search and advertising. It basically, to put it in a crude way, its objective is to get in front of as many people as possible and do whatever it takes. Google has, as we know, very deep pockets. It will invest and spend whatever it needs to fulfill that objective. It's very, very hard for other companies to compete with that. It's a constant innovator. It's constantly introducing new products and services. It'll do that organically or by acquisition. I think it's acquired something like 7 companies, maybe more, mostly in the sort of mobile social gaming space, in the space of a year. So this is how aggressive they are with service innovation, and it's all free. How can you compete with that, particularly operators? The short answer could be, well, maybe you can't. Other assets it already has some of the most popular consumer online services: YouTube, Google Mail, Orkut, in mostly sort of Brazil. I think it's a very strong social network there. So it's got lots of assets that are really, really popular with consumers. It's also got a very, very strong and effective developer community. Its focus has been very much on mobile, and it's been aggressive, swift and effective. We all know about sort of Android. If you think that an online player a matter of a couple of years ago launched into this market and it's ramping up with market share by 2015, but probably before then it's going to be number 2 in the smartphone space. So that's quite phenomenal. It's also got sort of mobile versions of all its popular online applications. It's also moving very aggressively into location with Latitude, with Buzz, with Earth, with Maps. It's also moving aggressively into mobile advertising. Its mobile search capabilities and assets are also doing very well. But its ambitions don't just stop there. Google is positioning it as a sort of broad, horizontal, web, cloud-based player. So it's not just going to compete on the mobile side. Operators that have sort of strong, converged ambitions, Verizon, Telefonica, pretty much all of them, they're going to come up against Google more and more. I guess the most conspicuous move there is Google TV. And Internet TV has been sort of tried several times before, not very successfully. But I think if anybody can make it work, then it's probably Google. And its sort of Internet TV concept, it's not just confined to the PC. It actually wants to make a play into the living room, which starts to come up against the IPTV services that operators are desperately trying to push out. So Google is starting to really sort of cover up and cover off just about every point in the telecoms market. And that's really frightening for operators. So that's Google. Operators always tend to think that Facebook is quite a sort of benign presence. You like to partner with it. You think that some of its sort of trendiness and cool will rub off on you, and that's probably quite true. But don't underestimate Facebook. Facebook is a lot more than just a social network. Facebook is a platform. And if you think about its sort of platform capabilities, it's got 1 million developers on the Facebook platform. Of the sort of developer community, they're very loyal to Facebook. You've got all the top games guys producing stuff for Facebook platform. They're also really, really building up quickly on the mobile side. They've got, actually it was quoted as 500 million users. It's now actually closer to 600. And about 200 of those are interacting with Facebook via mobiles. And I think a year ago it was something like 65 million. So that's how quickly it's getting out there in the mobile market. It's phenomenal. Facebook is also the most popular application, or one of the top 5, across all the smartphone operating systems, Apple, all of them. So it's sort of putting out feelers across all aspects of the market. And Facebook, it's a bit like a sort of a black hole It basically wants to integrate with everything. It wants to integrate with other websites, it wants to integrate with mobile phones. Actually, I read somewhere that when it comes to working with operators, it claims it's got about 200 operators that are sort of working with Facebook products in some shape or form across 60 markets. Impressive. There are other sort of aspects of Facebook that sort of people often forget, and again, it just sort of shows how wide and how far its ambitions reach. But it has an initiative called Facebook Connect. Basically, it's a way of people to access their sort of Facebook social graph from other websites and devices. It's got, I think about, again, it might be a little bit more, Facebook Connect partners. ComScore says that of its top 100 global brands, half of those are Facebook Connect partners. So you can see how it's sort of integrating out across the web. What it's also doing, again, you might not have picked up on this so much, it's got a thing called Facebook Credits. It's a virtual currency that it introduced quite quietly about sort of, I think, a year ago, something like that. So it's a virtual currency. It was initially just used for sort of virtual goods, you know, the little icons and sort of flowers, all that kind of stuff. But it's actually sort of expanding it more to be a sort of a micropayments platform. And I was sort of talking to somebody, and they said, well, imagine if Facebook Credits started to sort of link out through Facebook Connect partners. You know, you're going to look at some sort of virtual web currency that's a rival to sort of PayPal, Google Checkout. It's a possibility. The other thing that Facebook has done, it's already got an integration deal with Skype, and it's also, well, actually it just announced its sort of email service, and this is sort of hitting home at the heart of what operators do in communications. I mean, all it needs now is search, and you know, you've got a player that's sort of like Google, but possibly could go further. The sort of final piece of the Facebook puzzle, which I think is quite interesting, is mobile phones. I personally don't think it sort of wants to get into hardware. I mean, why should it? But I think it would be interested in doing something around a sort of a device operating system, a device platform. Maybe it would want to do sort of some customised version of Google, which would be fascinating, because then, you know, Facebook is a sort of like a social operating system. And imagine that sort of integration with devices. So I think of the two, Facebook is probably ultimately the slightly more scary player.